What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Call the Damn Leads, the show by sales professionals for sales professionals. I'm your host, Drewbie Wilson, with more than 2 decades in sales. I've been through it, seen it, heard about it. Now I'm bringing it to you, my favorite people in the world, the sales community. Because let's just be honest, this is the greatest job on earth. It doesn't matter where you come from, what background, what personality, you can carve out an amazing life for yourself in sales. Today's guest, no stranger to the journey. He's the author of this awesome new book he sent me in the mail, Take Your Shot. He's my new friend, Mr. Robin Waite. What's up, brother? How are you?
Oh man, what an introduction. Yeah, I'm fabulous. Really excited about our conversation today, Drewbie.
I am excited to have you on, and I want to jump right in, man. I want to hear your craziest sales story.
Well, it was an accidental sale, actually, which somebody did on my behalf. So we'd been through a process. This is back in my agency days. So for context, I ran a marketing agency for 12 years before setting up Fearless Business and transitioning into coaching in 2016. But we innovated. We used to do sort of web design, branding and things like that. And I eventually took what was an hourly rate, logo design service and smushed it into a one-day branding workshop. And there was 2 things actually which came out of this piece of innovation which we did around that productized service. So the first one was when you package something up really neatly like that, I was able to put it into a brochure, and at the back of the brochure we had a sign-up page. And what we did is we had this one-day branding workshop, but then there was also, as a bonus, there was like day 2 and day 3. So day 2 would be, after we'd done the logo design. Day 2 would be anything flat and printed. We'd design that in a day. And then day 3 would then be a brochure design day. And then we had extra services, similar services, which would lead into the websites. So we had this laid out in the sales page in the back of that brochure. And one afternoon, I'd started to realize there was a pattern. People typically came back for days 2 and 3. So all I did, somebody said, how much is this thing? So I showed them the brochure, and it's in black and white, so I don't have to sell it. It's there and evidenced in black and white that this is how much it cost. But I spun the brochure around and I said, oh, just to let you know, if you, like most of our clients typically buy day 2 and or day 3 as well on top of this first day. So if you tick the box, and it was literally like tick a box and sign it and date it, and that was it. That was the contract agreed. So I said, if you tick one or both of those boxes, we'll give you a £250 discount on the package. Inadvertently, we'd actually priced in the discount. So it wasn't like we were losing out on the sale. We priced it into the first day because we massively inflated the price. But you wouldn't believe it was like 60% of people would just tick one of those extra boxes. So we had this almost like, and bearing in mind, this is what, 12, now more than that, probably about 12, 13 years ago, we'd inadvertently created this one-click upsell by virtue of these 3 products that we created. And like a stupid amount of people just ticked that box, which was great. But the second thing, which is kind of linked to that, so we got known for doing this one thing really, really well. And I get a phone call out of the blue one day from my mentor, and he says, Rob, this one-day branding workshop, we need you to travel up to York. So I'm based in the southwest of England, and York is like way up in the north. It's like a 5-hour ride. And he was like, I want you to go up to York to deliver one of your workshops tomorrow. And I was like, because there's only about £1,500 we charged for it back then. I was like, I'm not sure about this. I don't want to travel all that far. It's tomorrow. And, I'm busy. I got plans. And he said, well, leave it with me. And he disappeared for 5 minutes and then gave me a call back. And he said, Robin, you're going to want to get in your car and, travel up for this. I've got you the gig. It's £18,000. So more than 10x the price. And what it transpired was that they'd wanted to put more decision makers in the room when we were running this workshop. And obviously the inconvenience of me traveling and hotels and stuff like that. I was already in a car. I'm driving up to York, almost before he got off the phone, because it's like, cool, I'm doing this. And then off we do the workshop. And before I'd finished the workshop, I had 18K in my bank account. But that same mentor, sorry, this is a bit of a long answer to the question, Drewbie, but hopefully this is good. So
come on.
That same mentor was the guy who actually taught me about sales. And he shared with me a story about one of his biggest ever deals that he did. And he was also a coach as well. There's up in Merseyside, so Liverpool, there's a series of dockyards. It's where we used to do all of our shipbuilding and things like that. And Nick, my mentor, got a call to go and see the CEO of one of these docks. So like there's a U shape where they bring the boats in, they drain them down, and then off they go. But there's also lots of warehousing typically around these things. So the CEO of this company, they're only utilizing about, you know, a tenth of this site. And at the time, their revenue was about £10 million. And so Nick's essentially what they wanted to do is they wanted to utilize the entire site and turn this business into like 100 mil so that they could then exit and sell on. They wanted to do it within about 2 or 3 years. And Nick's telling me the story, right? And I'm like, okay, great. Get to the punchline, Nick. And he says, well, there's this thing which I'm going to teach you, Rob. It's called STFU, right? You can probably guess what that stands for. Shut the up, basically. So that not the silent close, but give people time to think, right? So what he did is he had this methodology where he was essentially he was pitching the coaching package to this company, and how he packaged it up was right. So you want to grow this thing to 100 mil. The upside of the deal then is 90 million. We want 10% of the upside. So our coaching is going to be £9 million, which is ludicrous. It's such a massive number. And then STFU, he sat there waiting, and the CEO's like, Anyway, eventually they say yes. So Nick starts coaching this company, and Nick starts teaching them the same sales methodology around, like, you know, interjecting silences and the 6-step sales process and things like that, all the stuff that he taught me. And the CEO goes, Nick, you did that to me, didn't you? You did that STFU thing. You did that to me. And Nick was like, yeah, absolutely. And Nick went, do you know how long you were in STFU for? And the guy was like, I don't know, a minute or two. And Nick was like, 22 minutes. And the guy apparently went, what did you do for 22 minutes? I was just sat there, and like, you sat there in silence. What did you do? And Nick was just like, it was worth £9 million. I shut my mouth and I just sat there whilst you figured it out. And of course, this guy all the time was just like, talking himself into it, basically, and like having little conversations with the CFO and, oh, should we do this? Is it really worth it? You know, 9 million to get 90 million back, and we could sell the thing and like have this big exit. So they spent 22 minutes working it through. And I just think that's such a phenomenal like story, just on just a couple, like 2 very basic sales techniques within that, you know, in terms of allowing people to close themselves.
That right there is such a gem, because a lot of professionals that I meet and work with, that's one of the first things we have to get them to do, because you come in and you get so trained to just like follow the script and talk through over people, and you're only thinking about, all right, what's the next line in the script? What's the objection response? Like, how am I going to handle this? When a lot of the times, if you just shut your mouth, they're going to work it through themselves. And like, they're going to look at you and expect you to say something, and you got to just go, what do you think? So I love that story, Robin. And what I really appreciate is the idea of sitting uncomfortably for 22 minutes, but knowing like, hey man, if all I got to do is shut my mouth for half an hour to make $9 million, okay. But most people don't know that. They won't go through the unknown. They won't deal with that discomfort of the unknown long enough to get to that result. And so I would have to imagine, Robin, that in your years of experience, you've written a couple of books. I really appreciate the story in this one as well. Like, how have you been able to lean in and help use that in other scenarios?
So from a coaching perspective, actually, silence is one of the most valuable tools which we have. One of the reasons why I think there's a bit of a misconception around silence, that it's somehow persuasive or manipulative or something like that. And actually, when sales is one of those times, and especially coaching as well, when you're getting all of these new bits of information coming at you, you're having all of these insights about what the future looks like compared to the current, you know, situation that you find yourself in, and the challenges you're experiencing and how that feels. And so there's so much going on. And actually the moments of silence aren't designed to be persuasive or manipulative. All they're designed to do is allow the person opposite you to give them space to process all of this new information. And there's 3 modalities. You'll probably know this. I'm not terribly good at sort of articulating it, but there's 3 modalities which I talk about in the sales situation and coaching situation, where you have your gut instinct. How do I feel about the situation? So that's like your the reptile brain comes out, which kind of has the fight, flight, freeze. You get this new piece of information, immediately you're like, what do I do with this? Like that gut instinct, that knee-jerk reaction, right, that we hear about. Our body creates this, and it's designed to protect us, but before we've even had a chance to process it, our body reacts so that it can hopefully save us, whether that's fight, flight, freeze, whatever it looks like. So we have that feel. The next thing is obviously those feelings then escalate, run their way up to our brain, which is when we can then start to process it and look back into our memory banks and figure out whether it is something that, whether it's a tiger genuinely rustling in the bushes over there, or is it, just the wind, the breeze blowing through the branches. So we go into the thought mode thinking. And then finally, once we've had a chance to process it, we know. And that's when we typically tend to speak the answer. Like we speak our truth, we speak whatever's like, so those three modalities is what people generally go through. And you'll find there are people who spend a lot of time reacting, like very much in that gut instinct state. But it's really fascinating when it gets up into the thought process, and you can see literally like the cogs whirring and people looking all over the place and like having little conversations with themselves. That my record to date was, I think, about 2 minutes, 20 seconds of an STFU moment. And what I did is, because obviously we teach this in my group, and I was like, guys, this happened to me this week. I did the sales call and I had this two plus minutes worth of silence. I'm going to play the video to you, right? So I'm sat there with people on this call, replaying 2.5 minutes nearly of silence. But obviously I played a little bit before and after, so the run up to it and then the run up. And it was amazing to watch their reactions to this experience, like live. Some of them are like, you could literally see them squirming in their seats. They were like, almost like it was a recording, but I could see them. They wanted to speak, but I was like, keep silent, just watch it. Right. And like a couple of them even were like at the end of it, like applauded me as well, because it's such a skill. What I've learned though, because I learned this years ago from my mentor, and I turn it into a bit of a game now. I'm kind of like, how long can I make this last for? And how uncomfortable can I make it? Quite frankly, because in that certain level of discomfort as well, that you're creating an emotional response, which obviously most people, as you know, they do buy based on emotions, but you want them to channel that in a way that is constructive, that they can see a positive outcome if they are going to make a commitment and it's in its best fit. So you can have a lot of fun with it, I think, is what I'm saying.
I absolutely love that. And Robin, I want to share something that I personally went through when I was going through like my NLP certification and hypnosis and stuff like this. Because to me, it's all about communication. All of sales and all of this is really communication. And you mentioned something about that discomfort. And what we did was actually a training process where we had to sit across from another individual. And this was like a stranger. We had never met this person in the group. It was said, hey, we're in a room of 50 or 60 people. Go find someone you haven't talked to today. And we're just like, great. I'm an introvert by nature, so this was already getting me out of my comfort zone. And they said, all right, now I want you to sit down in front of this person, and you need to maintain direct eye contact for 2 straight minutes without laughing, giggling, making any sort of you literally just match eye contact for 2 straight minutes and try to maintain. And it's literally almost impossible, because the natural human reaction is to just try to get out of this weird, uncomfortable state. And I love how you mentioned it's a practice. It's a skill set. You have to get used to just holding it in and finding little ways of shifting and just covering your mouth or whatever it is that you do that keeps that thing inside of you, because other people want to be heard. And that's the thing that I really think the silence, the STFU moments give people is, like you said, they get to process, but then they get to speak and they get to project out the thing that they want. And a lot of the times, as you mentioned, if someone's just gut reaction, they're giving you the immediate thing, but it's not the thing they actually want, which is truly what we're trying to get to the bottom of in sales. So I think that's amazing. That's such a cool story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, my pleasure. And one little tip as well, like if you don't want to be too uncomfortable, like have your notebook handy and just like make some notes. So when you've given that piece of and you're having to pause, make a few notes. or doodle. Like if you've got nothing to take notes on, just like make a little doodle, because again, it also creates a comfortable space for that person to enjoy that silence and actually process it without pressure, which I think is massively important. But I find it fascinating that, and it's very much a practice. It's like this is a muscle at the end of the day, and you would go to the gym if you wanted to get physically fit. So practicing these, any not just the moments of silence, but anything which you learn from a sales perspective, whether it be structuring your offer, whether it be handling those objections, whether it be discussing pricing or terms or next steps, whatever it is, you need to find yourself doing it over and over and over again, and make it like a little bit better each time. Just aim to improve one part of it by just 10%. And that's just creating that muscle memory that eventually it just becomes very automatic. You don't really think about it. So in the end, I mean, like I said, it's more fun for me now, less of the discomfort. I find it quite fun now going through that process, but it's because I've done well over 1,000 like sales calls in my 20 plus year career now for across the two businesses. I've lost count. It's so many, and I do watch my calls back as well, right? If something didn't go well, or I wasn't sure whether what it was, because again, being an observer to your own sales calls it's so what's the word? You learn so much from it, seeing, because you're in the moment in the sales, you're in it. You're not everybody is aware of like their body language, their tonality, their pacing, what they're doing with their hands or the words that they're using or things like that. So sometimes I'll just go back and just check in, did I miss anything that person was saying, or how was I in the moment and things like that. So I record literally every sales call which I make. Don't watch all of them back, but at least I've got the archive there that I could dip into if I wanted to.
That's a fantastic training tip, and a lot of people are going to skip over that because they don't like the sound of their own voice. They don't want to go and hear themselves making mistakes or sounding silly. And I can promise you that in order to progress, in order to get better, these are the things that are required, and why a professional like Robin is at the level he is, where he can coach and he can teach others to go through this process because he did it himself enough times to know, I don't want to do that again. I'm going to do it this way because this is what consistently gets me the results. And so, Robin, what I would love to know from you is kind of, you've transitioned to where you've kind of built a coaching business and you had the marketing company. What would you say has become your like secret superpower when it comes to sales?
So there's two things that come before sales really, which I think are quite important. So, and it's really around the structure of the offer. I think there's so many people who try and sell stuff that they don't truly believe in. And I think you have to get, as a small business owner or any business owner really, when you set foot into a sales conversation and step through that door, you've got to 100% have faith in the product or service which you're selling. And I think people massively underestimate that. I hate to say it, there's salespeople who are really great salespeople, but they're doing it for the wrong reasons. They're doing it for the money. Okay, yeah, I guess we've all got to make some money and pay our mortgages and put food on the table and things like that. But I've seen many people really falter because they don't genuinely believe in the product that they're selling. So one of the things which we help clients with is, first of all, productizing services. That's my sweet spot. So less so like physical product-based businesses or e-commerce. It's mostly just sort of coaches, consultants, freelancers. And one thing I've noticed, it's really easy for people sort of starting out where they can sell something that's low ticket. So like a $50 an hour type service, right? But then automatically when you start to package it up, and let's say they build websites and they're, take 20 hours to build or something at $50 an hour, even getting them to say $1,000, that big package price, they're like Gollum with the ring, what's $1,000? Like they just retreat right into themselves. It's the same price. I don't know. I was about to swear then. Am I allowed to swear? But it's the same price, right?
You could swear.
$1,000
Yeah, it's okay.
20 times 50, right? But it's the big number that they're most afraid of. So how we transition them into getting confidence around saying that big number confidently and believing in it is to look at not what they do, because that's the act of building the website, making it standards compliance and whatever HTML code that really most people don't care about. You've got to get them into a mindset of, well, what do they get at the end of this once we built the website? Are they going to generate qualified leads for their business? How much revenue would that generate for the business? And you've got to be comfortable being able to help somebody articulate that value. What's the result or outcome from the product? And then when you have that conversation, well, it's $1,000, but you're going to get 5K a month or 10K or 20K a month back, from the website we built from you within the first 30 days. All of a sudden people are like, oh, really? Oh my God, that's amazing. You can do that? Yeah, absolutely. We can do that. Right. So you can see the shift in the energy. It's much more about confidence and things like that. And then the second side of that is then getting into like the pricing conversation. And that might be a conversation for another day potentially, or we can dig into it. But so now we've elevated to a point where we're selling products. So how do we make more money from that? And obviously sales is the vehicle, the mechanism that allows us then to, once we've learned to articulate our value. So, well, yesterday it might be $1,000 for that website, but actually we've now sold a couple and our confidence is a bit, buoyed. So we're feeling, right, let's see what we can do with this. So Friday rolls around and we're like, got 3 prospects that we've got calls with that day. Do you know what? If we get one of them for 5K, wouldn't that be great? So then it's like we move into like the future possibilities. Well, 5x the price, we'll stack some extra value in, but actually if we only get 1 out of the 3, i.e. we aim to get 2 no's, and we'll come on to that, then we're winning, right? So imagine that we can start to get a lower conversion rate, but for more money, and be much more happy when clients say no, because we need far fewer of them. And it's a bit of people get the concept, but they're very fearful around hearing that no, right? And I actually recommend a good conversion rate for a service business is actually about 1 in 5 to 1 in 3. So, 20 to 35% roughly, right? If you've priced it right and economically you're making good levels of profitability through that and it's sustainable, you actually want to be turning away far more clients than you're actually taking on. So there's this inherent amount of failure built into a business. And like, I love the feeling when a client says no, right? I love it when they say yes, like, don't get me wrong, right? But client says yes, I'm like, yay. Client says no, I'm like, yay. It's exactly the same reaction because I know the metrics within my business and I know that I'm going to be turning away some clients. It's just part and parcel of the job.
I think that's so genius. And I want to touch on something because to me, when I'm coaching my clients, prospects, anyone, what is your time worth? And as someone who's delivering a service, as you said, they're thinking, well, my time's $50 an hour. It's going to take me 20 hours. It's $1,000. Like, okay, awesome. It's $1,000. Now, on the flip side, the person who's buying that website, if they had to go and learn how to do the HTML coding and then they had to sit and spend 20 hours to actually do all of the things with the 10 to 15 years of experience that it takes to have that skill set, what would that 20 hours not spent working on their business cost them? And my guess is it's probably going to cost them somewhere around $250 to $300 an hour to be working on the website and not working on their business. So really, sir, all I know is I'm selling you time and money at a discount because you're going to come out with this beautiful new website. You're not going to have to spend 20 hours of your life trying to figure out how to code all these images and everything in here. And ultimately, you're going to go and probably play around of golf, take some folks out on and sign a few new clients. And they're going to be stoked because you got to spend time with them instead of trying to build this website.
There was you've touched on something which is really you touched on something which is really important there actually. So I was listening to a guy called Chris Doe. He's got a YouTube channel called The Future without the E on the end of it. Absolutely brilliant. He's got about 2.5 million subscribers, but his whole thing is about, again, he used to run a creative business and a branding business. And he was talking about like, if you undervalue yourself. So if you charged, I make the numbers easy. If you charged $100 for something when you should be charging $1,000, most people see it as though if we get lots of yeses at $100, like that far outweighs like the loss of not selling $1,000 products. But how he positioned it was like every time we sell $100 product, we're actually costing our business $900. And it's like when you actually start to break it, it's like when you flip the switch like that, it like makes sense. So you're better off saying no to 10 clients at $100 to get that one at $1,000 for exactly the reasons you just said. But it's like if somebody says no at $100, you've only lost $100. No, you haven't. You've actually lost $900 because you massively undersold yourself.
Robin, man, we could probably sit here all day and nerd out and have fun on this and talk about all the little things that you and I know people could, just implement in their system right now to see a massive amount of results. But respectfully, I know your time is valuable. I know our listeners' time is valuable, and I'm going to come and learn some more. I'm already like halfway through your book because it's a really easy read. So again, I really appreciate you sending this over for me. But if someone wanted to come and find you and learn more about you, check you out, kind of maybe, hop on a call and learn from you, what's the best way to find you?
Yeah, so two things. So I'm growing my YouTube channel at the moment. So just head on over to YouTube and search for Robin Waite, and hopefully, Drewbie, you'll share a link in the show notes somewhere around above this or down below it in the show notes. So, and come and subscribe, check out those videos. There'll be links in there to various resources as well. But I have got a gift as well for all of your listeners. So you've got a signed copy there, but I was going to gift signed copies to your listeners as well, if that's okay. So. And it's on me. Yes. There is an option to cover postage if you want to, but it's entirely optional. If you don't put any postage on there, I'll still send it if you add your address in. So, but those are at fearless.biz/TYS for Take Your Shot. Again, hopefully we'll share a link to that. And then I do a free diagnostic essentially where we look at sales, we look at your pricing, we look at do an offer review basically. So look at the whole structure of your business and then see whether there are any blind spots essentially. And there's never any pressure to join the Fearless crew. I hope that people just see that, we're doing great things and want to come and join the amazing community, which we've got. And I do turn the screw a little bit. I do make people squirm, especially when we do sales role plays as well.
Yeah, you know what? I think sales role plays is one of the most underrated training tactics in the entire industry, which makes no sense because putting in the reps, having the conversations, that is literally the best way to improve. And where I think it's so funny is in a role-playing situation, there's literally no pressure, and yet people will squirm away from it. They don't want to go through the process. And what I've learned personally is that when I'm in role-playing training, that's when you get the best objection handling because people are trying to be so rude and make it as hard as possible to sell them. And guess what? If you can sell someone who's making it purposely as hard as possible, imagine what happens when you step into the room with someone who's actually interested in what you have going on and they know that you're the one that can help them. So, Robin, the role play game, if anyone doesn't take that away from today, that's a huge one. But you've dropped some absolute nuggets on us. I mean, I know that I've learned some things. If the listener didn't learn, it's because they weren't paying attention. But I just want you to know how much I appreciate you being here, sharing some of your time, education, your wisdom. And I got one last question. I mean, You've shared a ton today. But let's just say, crazy coinkydink, someone's listening to this show. It's literally they've just started a new job in sales. Maybe they go to work on Monday. They're listening on Friday. If you can give them one piece of advice on how to be successful in the sales industry, what would it be?
So don't get complacent, or be cocky. Just be calm and, like I said earlier on, really invest yourself in the value that the products or services that you offer. In terms of the results, really focus heavily on that. Believe in it. But I was going to share something else. Actually, it was around Perry Marshall, is a great consultant in the States. Talked about something called this espresso machine, and the idea behind it is that again, salespeople can sometimes get pigeonholed into selling specific products. Obviously, speak with the business owner first, or if it's your business, you've got free reign to do it. But he talked about this thing called the espresso machine. So imagine you walk into Starbucks and you can get your mocha in the morning. You can get a bag of beans so you can have the taste of coffee at home. But there's this beautiful espresso machine sat on the shop, and you think, actually, I want the full Starbucks experience at home. So you buy the whole lot. And actually, Starbucks used to do this years ago. And that espresso machine used to create the equivalent profit in the business of 3,000 cups of coffee, believe it or not. When you think about the service that's involved with that. Every business out there should have their equivalent of an espresso machine. It doesn't necessarily need to be built. It just needs to be kind of have a concept of it built up here, so that when the right client comes along and you've built the right level of rapport with them and you know that you can do an absolutely remarkable job, but your products currently don't necessarily cover that off, pitch the espresso machine and just see what lands. And I've seen people in my community pitch espresso machines that are 10 times the price of their highest priced item and close those deals. It's rare. It's at the other end of the bell curve, but it does happen. So, but that's just about being a bit fearless and just putting yourself out there. But you have to believe in the product you sell.
That is an absolute gem. And I think that one was for me, y'all, because I have the espresso machine idea. I've tossed it around, but I'm not pitching it as much as I should. So, Robin, that one was for me, brother. Thank you so much for your time. If you listened to this show, you liked it, you got some value, make sure you go get Robin's book. Pay for the postage at least. Do the man that favor. You're going to learn so much that you're going to make a massive multiplier on this little investment that you're going to make in the time, energy, effort that you're going to put in to read his book. Make sure you follow him. Check out his YouTube channel. I'm already telling my team to get us subscribed because I want to take in more of the knowledge. But most important thing, share this episode, subscribe, stay tuned in because we're always bringing more amazing wisdom and knowledge to our favorite people in the world. That's you, the sales community. So if you've got a story you want to tell, head to callthedamnleads.com/podcast. Send us your information. Let's bring you on the show. Let's have some fun, just like me and my man Robin. We'll see you guys on the next one. Go call the damn leads.